Good afternoon, good evening to all of you. Maybe good morning to some of you if you are connected from far away. I hope that all are good during those pandemic moments. And I would like to thank you, Duan. I would like to thank you, IUG, to give me the opportunity as the professors for the business transformation course to share also what is the journey I'm going through in my current employers, who is Philip Morris International. Do not hesitate during this call. I will try to make it as interactive as possible. So do not hesitate to ask any questions through the chat. If there is something that this is not clear, if you have questions or you think that something is not correct, no problems. I will not take anything personally. I really love, I will say, the interactions and conversation and discussion. So please do not hesitate. I hope you can all see my screens. So basically, you may know that I'm working as an adjunct faculty for IUG since 2020. I'm also working for the University of St. Gallen, delivering an innovation practices elective to MBA students. And currently, I'm working for Philip Morris International, leading a competency center around design thinking and lean enterprise that I founded for the company 4 years ago with two other colleagues. From a background, I'm a computer engineer and graduated from the Swiss Institute of Technology in Lausanne in 1999, so more than 20 years already. If you see these screens, you may wonder, why did I put Facebook, a panel on these screens? And you may see that I never worked for Facebook. I just want to remind to some people, or maybe you will discover today, that the Facebook headquarters today are in the same office that I used to visit a lot for my previous employer, Sun Microsystems. So Sun Microsystems headquarters are today the Facebook headquarters. And if you go and visit Facebook headquarters and you visit this entry panel, you will see behind that there are still Sun Microsystems writing down, because they have just made a U-turn of this panel to remind to their today employee who were there before, and to remind them that disruptions happen to everyone, every business. And if you are not ready to make it, I will say, sustainable, which means that to be careful about the disruptions, to be careful about disruptors, you may end up like Sun Microsystems. That means to disappear, because the company disappeared in 2008. Just to be very clear with you, I work for this company, but I left the company 4 years before the company disappeared, because I was realizing that they will not succeed to the several disruptors around them. They were not able to change their business from software, hardware to user experience and services. Now, quickly about the company I'm working for today. This is Philip Morris International. Maybe you know this company. It's a world international tobacco company. We own the most famous brand, Marlboro. So usually people think that Marlboro is a company. No, Marlboro is a brand owned by Philip Morris International. We are a worldwide company with very strong finance results, as you may see. And you might have heard that over the last years, we have launched a set of new products which aim at providing better alternative for the people that cannot quit smoking. Okay, when I mean better alternative, is alternatives with the potential of reduced risk for your health. Okay, and one of these products that you might have heard, which is available in more than 60 markets today, is IQOS. Okay, so when we were looking at launching IQOS a few years ago, we were also looking at launching a new business model, because we were entering, for example, in the electronical device that we were never worked with before, because for decades we were running one business model around one product, which is the conventional cigarette that all of you may know with this most famous brand, Marlboro. The problem is that when you look for new business model, it might be more difficult than expected. And this is exactly what happened to us, okay? We were launching those new products, but very quickly we faced some business issue, because running the same business model for decades, give you some comfort zone, and you might not be put back yourself in an exploration mode where you consider your new product much more like startups, where you are exploring new business model, you are exploring new opportunities, and you have just to realize that maybe the receipt of the past is not working for today and tomorrow. And we also realize that even if we have the great invention like IQOS, which is a fantastic invention for people who cannot quit smoking, invention alone is not enough. Because even if you build a product perfectly, who will have the last word at the end is not you as a business, is the consumer, okay? Think about yourself, for example, when you buy a product, you have the final word is not the business, it's you because you buy this product versus that product. Okay, I give you just a simple example of, you may remember this product that have progressively disappeared from the landscape, the Segway. Okay, the Segway looks like a great tool, super cool stuff, but today you can no more buy a Segway. Why? Because the Segway was maybe a fantastic invention, but they were not able to turn it into an innovation. Why? Because they were not able to address a clear customer needs, a clear customer expectation. They came from a business perspective that thinking that people were looking for a different way to be transported, but they didn't really address what customers were looking at. In addition, they were also failing in all the assumptions around this, because they were assuming that regulation will follow, regulation will adopt this tool, and they will adapt. And that, for example, you will be able to drive this kind of device everywhere without any more problem than today if you drive your bike. The problem is that in most of the markets, if you want to drive a Segway, you need a driving license, you need an insurance, and at the end, you need also some security element on you. And some people will tell you, if I have those security elements, I may look like a little bit an idiot on this device, okay? So the Segway is a great example of something that looks cool at the beginning, but failed, to grow, to scale, because they were not able to find the right consumer segments and to provide the right value proposition for the consumers. So we were also facing a little bit this problem with the IQOS, but we have been able to revert back the situation, and I will explain how. I show you on this picture a few other examples of products that were probably looking cool, but they all miss the consumer segments, okay? You might remember some of them, like the new Coke in the 80s, probably Bic, who tried to, I will say, sell Bic for girls, because it seemed that girls were not able to use Bic for men, which is completely idiot. You may laugh about it. There are very nice videos, I will say, laughing about this product, but yes, this product was launched. Google Glass, you remember, it's probably seen still today as a gadget. And for example, you have Colgate who try to enter in the 80s, beginning of the 90s, the food segments, okay, where they didn't realize that people were associating Colgate still with toothpaste and not food, okay? So they were just wondering if they were cleaning their teeth by eating this kind of food at the same time. And you have some other examples like Harley Davidson trying to enter the perfume segment, and where people make immediately the connection where Harley Davidson should smell like oil, motorbike, garage, and not really perfume. So this is other examples where the consumer needs were never reached, okay, and they failed, and the product, of course, was not a success. So why today, I would say it is very difficult for a company to really, I will say, enter a new business model. Because first of all, the world is changing at fast pace. If you don't know, we used to say that we are living in a VUCA world, which stands for volatile. That means that the customers today or the consumers have multiple choice around them. And if they don't like your product, they have so many choices that they will easily switch to other product. Uncertain. I think you all agree that today the pandemic has created lots of uncertainties, and we are not sure that we will be back in a few months, maybe 1 or 2 years, in the normal we used to know in the past. Okay, so we have a huge uncertainty about where the business is going in every segment. Who will have thought like 3 years ago that today, for example, Boeing have just announced that they lost last year's $10 billion, okay? Just because the airline business has been profoundly impacted by the pandemic. Complex is today you have more and more, multi-player around you. So for example, if you are running a business, you might be surprised that to be, I don't want to say attacked, but to be disrupted or challenged by more and more small company on the left, on the right. For example, in the tobacco industry today, we used to play against or to be challenged by the same three top players. It's no more the case. We have lots of niche players popping up every month on the left, on the right, with different alternatives, different solutions that we have to compete with. And the last one is ambiguous. Ambiguous, you have always, I would say, the challenge to know exactly what people are thinking about. This is what the people are saying, but is it exactly what the people are doing? Okay. So when you face this kind of world, you have to behave in a different way that you used to run in the past. You have to launch your business model in a different way you used to launch your business model in the past. And don't forget as well that consumers have superpower and huge expectations. Okay, I used to depict the consumers with those Avengers, Justice of League people. It's just because at the end they have the last word. They have all the power. And if they don't like your product, if they don't get the value of your product, you may just disappear very quickly. And you have seen before some examples of product which were never a success. And for some of them, even the company behind disappeared or were very put in danger in terms of surviving. The speed of innovation is also accelerating because we have today to make innovation and adoption happening in parallel. In most of the big core organizations, big corporates, we were very strong, very powerful to check the feasibility and the viability of product because we have financial numbers, we have great people, we know how to build the kind of stuff. But if you miss the desirability, at the end, you will end up again with a product which may look viable on the papers, but you have no customers. And remember that any business model multiplied by 0 equals 0. Okay, so you cannot force someone to buy something. You cannot give water to someone who is not thirsty. Okay, you have, again, as a consumer, the last word. Do you have the desirability for the product, for the solutions, for the service, for the process which is offered to you? Now, we used to talk a lot about today in the innovation environment about those desirability, viability, feasibility aspect. I would like also to emphasize that since a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years, there is also a very important lens, which is what we call integrity. Sometimes we call this as well tech ethics, that we have to look at it when you innovate. What are the impact you are doing on the society, on the community with your solutions? Because this is also a clear points for your creativity and also your business. Okay, tech ethics is related to the fact that, for example, today people are more and more complaining, for example, how the technology is creating anxiety and not putting calm to the people. Okay, just give you a simple examples. I'm sure that most of you at the moment are attending these sessions with a phone, and I can already imagine how many disruptions you are getting through this phone every second through a WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, or any other kind of notification. So rather than creating some calm and having you focus on the conversation we may have at the moment, you might be distracted. It may create anxiety. So this is also a very important part when you create new things. Now, if we want to have a definition for innovation, I used to say innovation, it's about invention with a sustainable business model. Remember the examples of the Segway? Great inventions, probably, because super cool, maybe very fun to use, lots of work put in it, but no sustainable business model. So it's at the end not an innovation because it has not disrupted any existing business model, or it has not even created a new business model. Okay, so take innovation as the mix between invention and having a sustainable business model. Now, what is also important to understand is that when the speed of innovation is accelerating, you also accelerate today the adoptions and the buying of your consumer segments. In the past, you used to have this well-distributed bell that you may all know, okay, not only in the adoption of a product, but also sometimes when you rate, for example, people, you want to have a fair distributions. In the past, you used to have months, years to get the attraction of those people, starting with the innovators, the early adopters, early majority, up to the laggard peoples. If you take the examples of the mobile phone adoptions, I'm sure that some of you were early adopters already 20 years ago, and probably the laggards were probably your parents or your grandparents because they were not really liking the solution, but at the end, they have no other solution than having a mobile phone to stay in touch with you or, for example, your child or your children, okay? But today, if you look, we are no more spreading among months. We are much more in a weeks approach, and this is creating what we call the shark fin, which means that you have to attract as soon as possible your early adopter, your early majority. Otherwise, someone else will do it and you will be out of the business. And probably you have read those books, or you have heard about this book, which is about crossing the chasm, between early adopter and early majority. This is the most difficult part when you are commercializing a product, is how from your early adopters who are convinced about your solutions, you go to the early majority. That will make your business sustainable because you grow and you have the critical mass for your business. So watch out here. You don't have any more months and years to make it in most of the product you are launching. You have rather weeks. So by acknowledging this one, when we were launching the ICOS and realizing that it was not a success everywhere as expected, and rethinking about the receipt that we were using, we realized that as a company, we needed deep transformations, because running the same business model for decades has created a lot of problems for launching new product, new business model. So we need to re-engage directly with the consumers. When you have for decades a product which is sold by itself, why should I talk to our consumers? Whatever I do, they keep buying this product. Now it's no more the case, because the choice is so huge that people may just decide, I don't need this one, I prefer that one. We have also to revive, as I say, this entrepreneurial sense, spirit within the company, to have much more entrepreneur in the company, much more creative people. We have also to promote data-driven decisions. It's great that we may have experience on the past, but this is even worse, because this is like carry on, I will say, bad habits in the new world. And you have to take decisions not based on your experience and the opinion of people, but much more on the data that you are collecting. You have also to unlearn to relearn. Again, the previous receipt, the receipt of the past, might not be or will not be applicable to the new business you are trying to launch. So you have to agree that you may not know, the solution. You may not have the response to the questions people are asking. So you have to figure out what are the response to those questions. And at the end, we need also to have this thinking that we are there to de-risk execution spend. Because at the end, even if we are a very successful company and we have very strong financial, today money is not the challenge, is much more time. You may have all the money to build something, but if you have competitors going faster, and grabbing your markets, you may be out of this business quickly as well. So you have to put time before money. You have to go faster, and you have to de-risk what you will spend in the execution as far as possible. So this is also why we realized that we needed what we call a mindset shift. We need to have this mindset shift to say the business value will not bring the customer value. The customer value might bring the business value, but not the opposite. But at the end, as you may guess, any corporate like us, we are not a charity company, which means that we need to make financial results. We need to be solid. We need to also please our shareholder. But what we need is to find the sweet spot between providing customer value and business value. It's like desirability with viability and feasibility all together, not forgetting the integrity I was talking before. We needed as well to move from a brand-centric to a customer-centric company. Because when we were super successful, we were very brand-centric, spending hours, weeks, months discussing about maybe the packaging, rather than really what the value for the customers. And today, you need to put your customer first, not your brand. Even Heinz, with this iconic product like the ketchup bottles, move from glass bottle to plastic because they realized that it was much more user-friendly for their consumers. Remember trying to get the last drop of ketchup with these iconic bottles, and all the competitions and the new players were going there. So we realized that, yes, we needed deep transformations, which means that we need new way of working. We need to evolve the organization we have into one that masters digital, lean, and agile skills, showing this agility, entrepreneurship, and collaboration as core behaviors. And new way of working have been demonstrated through multiple analyses. For example, I just share with you two examples. McKinsey in 2018 shared this report showing like whole companies which are much more in the design thinking area are much more performing than other companies. The same from the Design Management Institute that were showing whole companies which are recognized as putting the consumer in the center, having put in place design thinking, and I will talk about it in a few seconds, lean startup, agile principles are much more performing than companies which are still using, I don't want to say bad habits, but old way of working, okay? So this is what brought our company a few years ago to create, and I was one of the founders, this fast forward ecosystem, this fast forward movement. Now, what is very important to understand is that what I'm sharing with you today is not something that we cook in a corner for months and came to everyone in the market, everyone in the function of our company and say, this is the way to work. We have 200 slides to share with you, and there is no other way to make it happening. What I'm sharing with you is the results of 4 years of trail, fail, learning experiments with markets, with functions. Starting, and this is always what I'm promoting around, and especially when I'm talking to other companies asking for support and help and how they should start this journey, you need always to think about your early adopters, okay? Always start with your early adopters. Who are the ones which are really looking at working in a different way? They have nothing to lose. They are not successful. They have very strong pain point at the moment, and you can help. And then you can use those ones to progressively demonstrate the value. And this is exactly what we did in our company. We started 4 years ago with 1 or 2 small markets, with 1 or 2 small organizations, and we have been able to very quickly show quick wins by approaching them or approaching the problem they were facing in a different manners, putting the consumer or the customers in the center of the equation. Because everything I'm sharing with you today, this disruptive innovation and this digital transformation and making transformation sustainable may apply for external facing project initiative as well as internal facing project. So that's why sometimes I'm using customer or consumer, but at the end, this is all about customer centricity, regardless if your customers are outside or inside the organization. So what I'm sharing with you now is really the results. Where do we stand after more than 4 years of experiments, success, and starting from the bottom, it turned this to become today a top-down program for the organization. It's one of the top 5 programs we are running in our company. So it has been never started like a top-down. There is a moment where it needs to become a top-down as well as supporting the bottom-up. But you need to start with your early adopter. You need to find people that can get the value of it and say, what's in it for me? Okay? So this picture, you may wonder why I have this picture at this moment in the conversation. I used to say that with fast forward, and this new mindset that we are bringing in the company, and we have already some great success that I will share with you later. That means we are trying to find 2 kinds of behaviors of animals you may find in any big organization, and especially one which were running very successful business model and now facing strong disruptions from outside. In this picture, you may see 2 animals together. You may see you have already recognized probably a hippo, and the hippo usually stands for highest paid person opinion, which means that there are always a hippo in any conversations you have, in any growth governance board, steering committee, highest paid person opinion. Everyone looking at the highest paid person opinion because it's in that his decision, her decision matter more than the data and fact that you are bringing. And this is against those kind of animals that we are fighting with some success today. The second one you may see in this picture is what we call the zebra. The zebra stands for zero evidence, but really arrogant people. Those are people who are used to work in the previous business and they think that they know everything for the new one, and they will never accept that some people may challenge them, okay? And they are very dangerous animals, okay? Sometimes you may really, I will say, mitigate the hippo. The zebra, it's a long fight to be able to beat against and to to win against the zebra. I used to say sometimes they can even merge and become like a Zippo because they show the two behaviors. They think that they have the decision because they are the highest paid person in the room, and they think that they know everything because they have worked in this company for so long time, though they don't accept to be challenged. It's horrible to see in some organization people being hired from outside with great experience for the new business, for disrupting the business, and after a few weeks telling you that I have just been hired for executing. My knowledge has no value, and I have already some very people with long past in the company telling me what to do for something they have no clue about it. Okay. We don't hire people to tell them what to do. We hire people to learn from them. Okay, it's very important to understand this one. And this is what we are promoting with Fast Forward. So with Fast Forward, we have core elements behind Fast Forward that probably most of you know. We have the design thinking part where we are emphasizing the customer centricity. We have the lean startup, which is all around about entrepreneurship. I will say they're risking what you are doing, invalidating your assumptions through gathering of learning and experiments. And we are also promoting a much more agility within the company, okay? Work in an iterative way, fail fast, learn quickly, adapt. So this is core elements. Now, if we look at the Fast Forward, and we call it an ecosystem today, because to have been able today to make Fast Forward sustainable across different markets and functions, it's not a one-day journey, it's a month, it's years of journey, but we have today put in place 3 fundamental elements that are making this sustainable. And I will share those one with you. The first one is the framework. We have a second building block, which is called about learning and services. And last but not least, super important, and I will spend a little bit of time on this one as well, communities. When it comes to framework, we have put in place a very simple framework that any project team, any working team can understand quickly. So we are not coming with a super heavy process that people are wondering, my God, it's super admin bureaucracy. It will take ages to make it happen. So this framework is made of 3 moments: empathize, explore, execute. Empathize and explore, it's all about validating that you are doing the right thing before doing the things right. So yes, there is a moment where you might need to execute, which means that you might need to build for real your solution and scale. But you need to be sure before this that you are doing the right thing. There is the right desirability for it. There is the right feasibility and viability. So empathize, it's all about knowing better your customers, what are the needs, but also what might be your future opportunity when it comes to new consumer segments or customer segments. Explore is what are the kind of solutions we are putting in place to address the problem or the opportunity. But we spend lots of time there to de-risk through experimentations to be sure that when we want to enter the executions, we have all the data and fact to prove that we are doing the right thing. We have a real customers with a real opportunity. We have validated the opportunity or the problems, and we have pre-validated the solutions in terms of desirability, a little bit feasibility and viability. So when we start building it for real, most of the risk have been taken out, which means that very often your initiative, your idea might never enter the executions because it will just be killed through the data and the fact that you are bringing. It's not rare in most of the markets I work with today that people are going to the growth board to ask not for money, just to ask to kill something that they were working on because they brought all the data showing that there is no need to move forward. Okay, so very important to have those 3 moments, simple, 3E, empathize, explore, execute. We have also a set of basic principles attached to this framework. You are always trying to solve real problem that real customer have. And by real, I means you have the data evidence that you can talk about those customers or consumers. You try to reduce bigger risk into smaller risk. Remember this notion of de-risking the execution span, okay? Why should you build the product to test it if you have already lots of small assumptions, and based on the learning that you will grab through these assumptions, it may already kill your future product. Iterate quickly, being agile and validated based on validated feedback, and always be driven by data and fact to challenge continuously your assumptions. If you are not able to bring the knowledge, the data, you don't know. Okay? Please don't sit as a team and say, we are assuming that the consumer will behave like this. Let's move. No, we are assuming, but we don't know. We need to validate or invalidate. When it comes to education and services, we have developed a strong learning programs which try to address three lenses, knowledge, skills, attitude. Because if you want to change and if you want to develop the competency within your company, you need to equip people with knowledge, then with skills, and then demonstrating the right attitude. So for example, for knowledge, we have developed lots of self-service content where people can understand why we need to transform, what's in it for them, how do we transform, what are the principles, the tool, the approach to disrupt our business we are taking, how can we, for example, go faster even with adjacent or incremental innovations. We provide as well a very simple set of tools and canvas. We have a very nice method kit built inside the company for this. But again, I'm also promoting all the stuff because I say at the end, I don't want to have people who are mastering all those tools if they are not able to understand what is really the value behind using those tools, which is about being more consumer-centric and experimentation-based. And we are also sharing for the knowledge a lot of success stories of our market functions having applied those fast-forward principles like design thinking, lean startup, agile, to successfully build a new product, to successfully, for example, launch one of our new products, but also to quickly stop some initiatives that were going nowhere, that if we were using the previous habits, we will have kept running for a long, long time. When it comes to skill, we are also organizing lots of training and workshop inside the company, doing those workshop and training by ourselves. And I will talk about the community helping us on this in a few minutes. We have great communities working and helping us to increase the skills of the people. And we have also worked with two small companies, the Center for Coaching and the Spark Academy company based in Zurich. The first one is based in South Africa, the second one in Zurich, Switzerland, to help us really upskills very fundamental role we need in our organizations to make this new way of thinking, this new way of working sustainable. And at the end, to demonstrate the right attitude, nothing replaces the on-the-job activities, okay? You have to do what you preach. You have to go outside, talk to your consumer or your customers. You have to pitch your idea. So for example, today, most of the markets use growth board on a very regular frequency, every 2 weeks or months, to get team presenting where do they stand with their initiative in a pitch way. This is what we learned over the last month. This is what we want to learn the next months. This is potentially the money and the people we need to move forward. But this is also the moment to tell you, this is what we have learned, and this is the right time to stop, because there is no chance that we can be successful. We have demonstrated that, for example, there is no real consumer problem behind this. And of course, you may see just an extract, but we are also making much more prototyping because, when you run a super successful business model for decades, you may end up in the spirit of perfections. Everything has to be perfect, But today, time matters more. So good is enough. What can we do? What can we fake to already test with some consumer, with some customers before putting maybe in place the whole machine to build for real the product? Services, for example, all my team, as well as the community we have in the markets, are providing like consulting services within the company. Sometimes we are being seen as consultant within our company because we provide services around the strategy, services around project, and you have seen before around educations, So we have like a portfolio or a catalog of services which is public in the company, where people can contact either us or our community in the markets to get the right support for their project or initiatives. The last part, and this one I will just take a little bit time on it, it's communities, okay? I will not explain all in detail all those different people, but without those communities that we have put in place over the last 4 years, I won't be there today, to explain what is Fast Forward about and how we make the transformation sustainable across market and functions. Because we went through some reorganization in the company over the last 4 years, and we are still there, which means that thanks to those communities, we have been able to really drive the change and to show how these transformations is important and how we can make it sustainable. So in a nutshell, we have 4 levels of different roles of people. We have practitioners. This is people in the project having the basic knowledge and skills, to act with some design thinking, lean startup knowledge, and they are already applying a consumer-centric approach to the project. We have catalysts. Catalysts are much more subject matter experts when it comes to design thinking, lean startups. And we have today more than 100 people certified, because we even remember I was showing you before that we have some certification programs. So we have a very strong certification program for catalysts. You may see in bracket external, because we are still using some external catalysts, some freelancer people from the lean startup community or design thinker in some markets, for the time for us to build the muscle inside the company. And I will talk about this one in lessons learned a little bit later. We have builders. Builders, you may see those one as orchestrators. Those are people supervising all those initiatives, starting with this fast forward mindset, which means that before going to a possible execution and being turned into a project where you will go to a normal stage gate process, we need to conduct before some initiatives, some research, some experimentations to invalidate or validate the needs behind something for a consumer or customers. And last but not least, we have coaches. So coaches, central people helping us to crack the mindset in some market, in some function when it comes to the top management. Okay, because you start, of course, with your early adopters, but you have also to get very quickly the buy-in from some senior leaders to be sure that your teams, your builders, your catalysts will not reach the ceiling and being asked to work in the old way of working. Okay, so coaches, those are employees who have not been hired from outside. This is internal employees who are quite senior in the company, and they have a great experience of the business, but they have also a great visibility, and they have a strong trust from the organization, from the company. So they are open-minded, they want to change, they want to disrupt the company, but they are very, let's say, supported and trusted by the others, which is super important. So you may see the numbers. We started with 3 people in 2016. It was myself plus two other colleagues. And today we have more than 10,000 employees enabled either as practitioner, catalyst builders, or coaches. What is also very important with those communities, they are actively looking for insight and sharing learnings. Okay, and this is the beauty of those communities we created, because they share. For example, on the right side, it's probably not readable, but this is, for example, our Fast Forward Club. This is a place where all those fast forward community are exchanging on a daily basis what they are doing and looking for help, support, insight. Okay, because the role you might have seen before, like catalyst, builder, or coach, are not nice to have job. It's not something you do on top of your business as usual activity or your role. We have builders with clear job description. This is their job. Coach the same. Catalysts, they have a certain percentage of their week in their objective associated to this activity. Okay, so it's not like I'm a fast food builder on top of being, like, for example, I don't know, a financial analyst. No, I'm a builder and I have this strong role. I have this full-time job and I'm making the change in my organization. We have also, for example, a very simple tool that is getting a lot of attraction over the last 2 years, where people are all sharing their experiments, because we use, for example, predefined template when you want to run an experiment and when you want to document your learnings. And this is the place where people used to come first before doing an experimentation when they have an assumptions to check if a market, for example, has not already run the same experiment for the same assumptions. Of course, you have to be careful sometimes, because people do not behave in a country exactly the same that in another country. I may guess that a German person might not behave in the same way that a Brazilian person when it comes, for example, to buy a product. But you can already learn from other markets what have been the experience, what was working, what was not working, rather than just recreating from scratch something. Okay. Now, some of you might have a question about, but does it work? Okay, because you are big organizations, very, I would say, sustainable business, financial solid, and you try to disrupt yourself with new stuff. But yes, it works. So in 2018, it was like 2 years ago, a little bit more 2 years ago, we were being asked by our management to get assessed by an external company based in Boston, Change Logic. And what this company did, they went to more than 20 markets that we were working with, and they conducted a lots of qualitative interviews from their managing directors to the different project team we were working with to understand what has been the impact of what I'm sharing with you over the last 2 or 3 years. And as you may see, out of 10, we have been super well rated for the different questions that were asked by those people. We were even, I would say, getting the best NPS for an internal programs run in our company. Okay, I think we got more than 70. Now, I have also lots of quantitative data that I cannot share for confidentiality here, where we have probably 50 examples, of initiatives where we were either impacting through cost savings, revenue increase, efficiency, So we have great examples of this. So today it's public inside the company. People knows what have been the benefits we have brought. They have seen the impact. And this is also what make our, let's say, movement sustainable. And another proof of this is that today, most of the program that the company is launching, they try to look at how can we keep and instill this fast-forward mindset, not only in designing the programs, but also to be sure that we keep this consumer centricity experimentation. So for example, we have today, nothing confidential, but we are going through, for example, a reorganization in markets where we try to put in place a consumer-centric organization, is because we want to further emphasize this consumer centricity experimentation mindset. We have, for example, today put in place a new stage gate process when it comes to executions. We have been part of the conversation to be sure that it's not because you enter in the execution that you should forget all the benefits that you have developed and carry on through the application of fast forward principles during the exploration and empathize moments. So you keep having, for example, an experimentation mindset during the execution to keeping their risking. Even if most of the most important risks have been solved before you go to executions, you keep this de-risking mindset. To finish with this conversation and then opening the door for possible questions, because I don't see any question for the time being in the chat, I would like just to share with you some key lessons learned running this program over the last 4 years. And I think this is fundamental. First of all, I told you that you need to start with your early adopters because people need to get the value of what you are doing. Okay, find the people who are thirsty, who are looking for approaching a problem, a challenge in a different way that they used to. Okay, but very quickly, you have to demonstrate quick wins to be able to turn this into a top-down approach and to really anchor these programs within the organization. Track as well the impact of your program from the first day. Okay, because trust me, you will be challenged every month, every 6 months, every year about these kind of programs because you are disrupting the way of working and you are putting people in an uncomfort way of working, which means that they were not used to working that way. So, when you don't want something, people by nature are against the change. They will find any excuse to go back to the previous way of working. So if you are not able to track the great impact you are doing with your programs, you might be challenged very quickly and maybe your program might be stopped. I'm used to talk about business transformations around me, not digital transformation, because sometimes people say, oh, this is digital area, so let's use digital to transform our business. I say, no, you are going through a transformation from a business perspective and business has to see the value of being transformed, and digital is just an enabler for your transformation. It's not the end goal. What is also important to understand is that the mindset shift is driven by humans, not by tools and process, okay? Don't spend time designing tools and process if you are not able to find a way to crack the mindset and to put the right mindset in place, okay? You can say that mindset hits tools, okay, and process for the breakfast. Customer-centric approach is a required company competency, okay? This is not something that you can omit today. You cannot say that, this is just a trend, and in 2 years, we will be back to brand-centric. No. You have seen, I will say, the volatile world we are living in. You have seen as well that the pandemic today is also asking some companies, some business, to be, I will say, change very quickly, to adapt quickly. So customer centricity is fundamental. But you have also to understand that every organization might be different. Of course, you might all apply design thinking, lean startup, agile principles, but you need also to create your own customer-centric ecosystems, okay? You need to create and own it. You need to build the muscles, okay? Of course, at the beginning, when we were starting this journey, we got some support from some lean startup freelancers, design thinker. We never went, just to be very clear, we never went to those big players, you may know, those big consulting companies, because usually they don't even, I would say, transform themselves. So it's funny to have them explaining you how you should transform. And we prefer to keep, I would say, the agility by working with small players who have been able to really disrupt some other company. But progressively, you build your own muscles, you learn, and you develop this inside capability, okay? What is also important, you cannot change culture and mindset without addressing leadership first, okay? That means if there are some markets, if there are some functions where you don't have the right leaders, those leaders don't want to change, don't even start there, okay? It will be a pure waste of time, and it can even, I would say, demotivate people by trying to crack a place where there is no hope for this. Internal transformation is a long-term strategy. It's not, I have a problem like engineer and I can criticize, I'm an engineer. So it's like, we have a problem, this is the solution, 6 months, fix, we go to something else. No, it's a long journey. But to track your impact, as I mentioned before, you need quick wins, because people will again challenge you. You can explain that this is a long-term strategy, but you need to have clear progress metrics to show how you are progressing towards the end goal. Design thinking and lean enterprise go beyond innovation and consumer-related project. What I mean here is, I mentioned this very quickly at the beginning, is everything I'm sharing with you is not only targeting consumer-facing project, but it's also for internal customer projects. So for example, if you try to change some processes inside the company, you can apply the same receipt. So the same receipt apply to incremental, adjacent, or disruptive innovation. It just may be the fact that maybe for incremental innovation, you will spend less time in empathize and explore because you might have lots of data and you can maybe jump more quickly to the execution with confidence. But if you are in the disruptive, for example, area where you are trying to launch a new business model, where you don't even have the capability inside the company, you may spend a little bit more time in empathize and explore to bring all the data to justify that this is worth for the company to try to enter this domain. And last but not least, walk the talk. Walk the talk is do what you are preaching, okay? I'm preaching design thinking, I'm preaching lean startup, and as I was explaining you before, the model I'm sharing with you is a model that came out of more than 4 years of experiments, try and learn with lots of market and functions, and we keep adapting our programs, okay? Nothing is right in the stones that we won't change. We might change the community, we might increase something, we might diminish something, decrease something. We might also look at other aspects. So walk the talk, experiments, try, good is enough, fail, learn. Okay, so this is very important lessons learned I was looking to share with you as a conclusion of this talk. If you want to stay in touch with me afterwards, you have my professional private email, my LinkedIn profile, Instagram as well. And there are 2 articles which have been published last year, which are referring the fast forward ecosystem that I'm presenting, or they are referring to us as the way we have disruptive the way of working in our company. So feel free to have a look at those 2 articles where we are being mentioned in details. So on this, I'm opening just the stage. If there are any maybe live questions through the voice or through the video, turn on your camera if needed. More than happy to see the face of the people asking for questions. And otherwise, use the chat if you have any questions.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Vincent, for sharing, such great experience on a very important domain. A lot of companies are actually thinking how to implement such processes in their organization.
Absolutely.
You already have 4 years of experience I maybe just one question, just to open the questions for everyone. While choosing the representatives in the markets for the Fast Forward team, and what were the profiles you were looking for? Kind of
Okay.
new people just joined the company or with business process experiences. Can you share?
Okay. Thank you. Great question. So if you remember, I was explaining those 4 different profiles, like practitioners,